Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast, Ducky Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing takeaways from Week 11 of the 2022 NFL season. Week 11 of the 2022 NFL season. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it, starting with the Commanders, who appear to have found their winning formula. So, 4-1 start to the season for the Commanders, but they've won 5 of their last 6 games. 4 of those games with Taylor Heinicke under center in place of Carson Wentz, who went on IR after having surgery on his finger. The Commanders have now made the move official that Heinicke will be the starter going forward for the rest of the season, which was inevitable after Heinicke pretty much outplayed Carson Wentz. I don't know what's left on Carson's contract, but if the Commanders are able to move on, they're most likely going to move on. But back to Heinicke on the field. Washington has relied on its ground attack, rushing for at least 137 yards in 4 of the last 5 weeks. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson have split most of the workload, though Heinicke has had some issues with interceptions, throwing at least 1 in 4 of his 5 starts. He does manage the game well enough, and he makes enough plays, feeding the ball to Terry McLaurin to move the offense downfield. And the Commanders' opportunistic defense pounces on the football, forcing 12 turnovers over its last 6 outings. Chase Young is close to a return. I know his his window to be activated is pretty much almost closing, so I would expect him to be at least activated off IR this week. I don't know if that means he'll be ready to play by next Sunday, but once he does return, he will simply add on to a defense that's been performing at a high level. Lions, they have been on a bit of a surge recently, and they've been doing so with some help from their rejuvenated defense. Lions they had excelled at putting points on the board, averaging 35 points through the first 4 weeks, but they went 1-3 in that stretch because their defense, they didn't excel when stopping the opposition. And after 5 consecutive losses, Detroit has now won 3 straight games, and while the Lions can still move the ball and score, I think what's more notable is that they're making more plays on defense. So after they lost to the Dolphins, the Lions fired their defensive backs coach, and the defense then held a players-only meeting. And thus far, it seems as though that meeting of the minds has sparked something within this defensive unit. Throughout their current win streak, the Lions have recorded 7 takeaways, 3 of which came in a win over the Giants on Sunday. Detroit's defense is not a shutdown unit, but they do make enough plays to complement a top 10 scoring offense, which features the NFL's touchdown leader Jamal Williams, who scored 3 times on the ground against the Giants. So, realistically speaking, looking at the surge, it might be enough to get him over that 500 hump. Maybe. They sit at 4-6, I do believe. So it'll only take like a couple more wins to get back to 500, and then 1 more win to get above 500. So maybe Detroit can make a late season push for a winning record. And I don't want to say playoff spot because I don't think they are contenders. But, certainly speaking, if you can continue your win streak, you can continue to remain mathematically alive, I think. I'm not good with math at all, so I have no idea how the NFL's mathematical model works for the playoffs. And if there is a video or something out there that explains it in simple terms, I would like very much to know about that video so I can watch it. But nonetheless, I don't think the Lions are surging to a potential postseason spot. But I think this recent surge, it gives the Lions it gives the Lions a reason to stick with the current coaching staff, stick with the current front office, because it shows that there's a reason to keep this going. The only guaranteed years when it comes to a coach in the NFL is the one on the coach's contract. Everything else is simply year by year. So I think Dan Campbell bought himself another season if he could continue this late season surge. Colts, Jeff Saturday I think he's earned a chance to keep the head coaching job. It's only been 2 games, but I like what I've seen over the past couple of weeks. And sure, the Colts went on the road to beat the lowly Raiders last week, and they lost to the Eagles on Sunday. But Jeff Saturday doesn't seem overwhelmed by his new position. After all, the Colts are a far more competitive. They have been a far more competitive team than the team that lost to the Patriots in Week 9. They nearly knocked off the one-loss Eagles here, who pretty much trailed until the end of the game when Jalen Hurts scored on a rushing touchdown with 1:20 left in regulation. So Saturday made the executive decision after he took over made the executive decision before his first game to reinsert Matt Ryan into the lineup, which gives the Colts a better chance to win games, especially when Jonathan Taylor performs closer to his league rushing leader level from last season. At 4-6-1, Indianapolis, they still got some fight left in them. Now that Saturday is the lead man in the locker room, and as I said, through 2 weeks, he's shown that he has a real shot to drop the intern label and keep the head coaching job, which might tick off some people, but those people's opinions aren't really worth anything. So he has 6 games left in his audition, but again, so far so good through 2 weeks. I don't expect the Colts to make the postseason, but I think if you can show, if you can put better things on tape through 8 games than you did starting the season, I think really that's a win right there. Especially if you can, end the season at least with a winning record. That's a pretty good start right there. Vikings. Well, they suffered a setback on Sunday, which, is the thing that happens. It's hard to, winning streaks are nice and all, but they don't seemingly last. They don't really last. Because it's hard to maintain them. And for the Vikings, they had quite the win streak, but they had to fight every single week to maintain it. And this season, how they maintained it was just mastering the art of the comeback, win and tie games, having won 4 of their 8 contests by 4 points or fewer. On Sunday, the Vikings, simply got into a hole too deep for a late game rally and lost in embarrassing fashion to the Cowboys at home. And while some people might brush this off as just a bad game, Dallas did explosive issues with Minnesota's defense, which ranked 29th against aerial attacks and 16th versus the run before Sunday's contest. Now, do note that the Vikings are dealing with some key injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and ultimately, until a few of their starters on defense return, the Vikings, they might have to win some shootouts to stay atop the NFC standings, and that method is not without its obstacles. Justin Jefferson battled turf toe going into the game, and going into Week 11, it got 3 passes for 33 yards. It was said that wasn't really going to limit him. It didn't look like it was limiting him. No matter, I think it was just the offensive line not being able to block. They lost Christian Darrisaw in this game, and really the offensive line struggled throughout the game, so I don't think Kirk Cousins could really get into a rhythm and really get the ball and feed it to Justin Jefferson as much as he probably would have wanted to if he had a little bit more time to operate in the pocket. But also Kirk Cousins also just got to use his legs a bit more. He's got to get out of the pocket a bit more. Looking ahead, Minnesota will play 3 teams with a top 11 scoring defense, play 3 teams with top 11 scoring defenses in the next 4 weeks. The Lions are the only team in that stretch without a high-level defensive unit, but do note that Detroit's defense has forced 7 turnovers in their last 3 games. The Vikings do a quick turnaround. They're playing on Thursday night, and other teams this season have bounced back after having setback losses, like the Eagles after they lost their first game. They got a win on Sunday against the Colts. It wasn't easy, but they got the win. You think about the Chiefs, they lost to the Colts, but they bounced right back. Lost to the Bills, bounced right back. So this is ultimately a quick turnaround, is a chance for the Vikings to bounce back in short order. and they need to if they want to maintain their place in the NFC, if they want to continue to prove themselves as a good football team, because that's what good football teams do. They bounce back after setback losses. And then for Sunday Night Football, winner of that game was the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes completed 20 of 34 passes for 329 yards and 3 touchdowns, adding 23 yards on 4 carries. So all 3 of Mahomes' touchdown passes went to Travis Kelce on a night that the Chiefs were thin at the wide receiver position. McCall Hardman's on injured reserve, Juju Smith-Schuster out with a concussion, and Kadarius Toney left in the second quarter of a hamstring injury, leaving the team to play from an increased rate of 12 personnel. Kelce Mahomes got the better of standout safety Derwin James, leading the team to a fourth quarter comeback victory behind their late combined heroics. The win moves the Chiefs to 8-2, which is the best record in the AFC. Mahomes and the Chiefs now prepare to host the Rams in Week 12, who might be without Matthew Stafford, as he once again entered concussion protocol. So, not saying it's an easy win, but it could be an easy win, or it could be a trap game. I guess we'll see how Kansas City wants to handle that one, but with this win and season sweep of the Chargers, and now the Chargers sitting at 5-5, and the Broncos and Raiders sitting at 3 wins apiece, it appears that the AFC West is going to, the Chiefs will once again remain the kings of the AFC West, after it was thought that there was going to be an arms race in the offseason, that all the other teams in the AFC West were stocking up to try to take down the Chiefs. The Chiefs stand tall, so I guess all that effort for nothing, it appears. So I guess congrats to the Chiefs. It's not official yet, but it appears that you are winning your division yet again. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.